What's up, guys? Didn't see that coming, did you? Full disclosure, this is completely unscripted, and what that means is that I'm not reading off of anything right now. I'm just kind of gunning it, going for it, doing it. Don't worry, guys, see? It's actually me. So a lot of my... See, this is what happens whenever I'm talking to myself. So just a quick update, a lot of the editing software that I use, I finally figured out how to make RWBY videos, or just videos in general, where I can include clips. But the software that I use now crashes all the time, which is really inconvenient because I'll get like halfway through editing something, and then it'll just like, gone, completely gone. It won't even save it, which is kind of shitty to me, but you know, it's just something you have to deal with. So, this is a bit earlier than I expected, but I guess it could be considered a 2,500 subscriber special or whatever. Anyway, so that's why I do have a couple videos that are already made that might be coming out soon. So those might still be in my old fashion, but for right now I might be sticking to this. And for those of you that don't know, this is typically how I do my recording. I have a camera and I talk into it, and then I just cut out the video, which is cool. I can actually prove to you guys that I was in the Army. See, look right here. See, I'm right. Where am I actually? Oh, right there. That's me. That's little old me. Yeah, so I was in. That being said, let's get down to the topic of the video at hand, right? God, unscripted is hard. So my final thoughts on RWBY. If you haven't seen any of the other videos that I've made for this, which is kind of just like this small little series where I talk about, you know, can RWBY be saved? Because it was something someone asked me, and So it was something someone asked me who was a subscriber, and he asked me my opinion that, you know, could RWBY be fixed or saved? And, you know, I'm not too sure, but as of recently, I think I figured out pretty much how I feel about the series right now, which took me a while, and I had to rewatch everything and, you know, go through all this stuff, and all these new videos I've been making have been actually helping me formulate an opinion that might not be wholly negative. So, going forward in Volume 7, I'm pretty sure they have to just roll with everything that they've done so far. They can't backtrack, they can't try and fix anything. They have to just accept it and move on. So once they've accepted everything that they've made, they have a possibility of actually progressing the story in a way that's positive. Because you accept all these problems that you've made and all this bad writing that you've done. So now that you've got that, just accept it, it's canon, move on. What you make next could be really good. So in that sense, I feel like maybe, just maybe, Volume 7 could be the comeback. It could be the comeback. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be the comeback, nor does it mean that I think it's going to be the greatest volume of all time. But it's probably going to be, what, is it the finale? It might be the finale. If it follows the same cookie cutter routine that they've been doing so far, it's probably going to fail. And I know a lot of the fan base isn't too happy about the previous volumes, and I know that Miles and Carrie are not very good at accepting criticism and more or less just insult their fans that don't agree with them. That actually goes for a lot of people involved in RWBY, including the voice actors, which is really, really sad because, you know, some of those voice actors I actually like, and it turns out they're just kind of dicks. So, but that's just something that you learn early on, you know. Don't end up liking someone as a person for the work they do, because odds are that you don't know them at all. So they could be really good at like voice acting or editing or directing, whatever, acting. They could be really good at it. But as a person, odds are you guys probably won't get along. There are some exceptions to this, you know, some people are just genuinely nice to everyone and other people are just like not. Does that make sense? So going forward into Volume 7 and the ultimate question of can RWBY be saved? The answer is yes, it can, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not going to be super easy. See, I feel like Rooster Teeth has kind of been neglecting RWBY and focusing more on Genlock. Because if you haven't noticed, there has actually been some major YouTube channels that were paid to promote it. They were paid to promote Genlock, which is just kind of weird to me. Like, why would you be struggling so much just to promote this show unless people aren't that into it, so you're trying to get it out there more? And that really comes into play with the whole Rooster Teeth making it first only, and they might revert that later on and make it so that, you know, the episodes will be steadily released after a while, so that the first people have had their like we're superior moment, and then they can move on. But as a whole, I think they're focusing way too much on that show and need to dial it back and focus a little bit more money, I should say, on RWBY. The animation is improving a lot. The story isn't improving too much, and you know, there's just a lot of points where you can plainly see that there's something wrong with the show, and it's almost wholly never addressed. You know, you can see what happened to Adam's character, and then you have what happened to Crow's voice actor Vic, and it's like they're making so many mistakes. Can they actually piece it back together at the end? Well, the second thing is, you know, if Vic ends up not voicing Crow, if Vic ends up not voicing Crow for season 7, volume 7, I think a lot of people are going to be upset, and I don't think they realize how many people are going to be upset, just because with everything that's happened with him, there just hasn't been any proof for it, so it kind of makes it like a weird gray area. Like, but ultimately I feel like if he is not voicing Crow, a lot of fans are going to be upset, especially the ones that are obsessed with Crow, and more like 90% of Crow's character is actually his voice. So now I've already discussed characters a lot on this channel, and you can see plenty of those videos everywhere. But all that I'll say is that their characters need to start being a little better, because in the beginning, I'd say volume 1 to kind of like partway volume 3, they were really, really good. And now they're just kind of not, which is weird to me. And I'll be completely honest, guys. The more you delve into Rooster Teeth and just the way their company works and the way that they view their fans, it's not very nice. You know, none of it's very good. A lot of it's bad. They're really negative towards a lot of their fan base, and they're really not too supportive of anything that deviates from what they consider good, I guess you could say. Not to tack on to the Bumblebee thing again, but I think there was like almost 90% of the voice actors support Bumblebee, and it just doesn't make sense until you realize the only reason they support it is because it's an openly lesbian couple in this show. And as I've said before, you know, Rooster Teeth has very far left views, which isn't bad, and it doesn't mean it's bad to be LGBT whatever and you love who you love, all that stuff. It's totally okay. But it becomes a problem when you start forcing it into your material and not letting it happen organically. The best development of an organic relationship I could think of is probably Ren and Nora, or Jean and Pyrrha, or John and Weiss. You know, those relationships were very organic. They happened naturally. It wasn't forced. Nobody felt forced. It was just like you were watching two people be themselves. And that was really interesting. But then you get this, and I already broke it down in a video, you get this just out of left field, just like boom, they're gay now. And it's just so confusing, and it really feels like it's insulting to the audience as like a whole, because it's like they picked their favorite ship and just made it real. And that's kind of the problem when you have a complete creative, you know, what's it called? Authority, creative authority. So let's say that I'm like a writer in Rooster Teeth or whatever, and I just come up to you and I'm like, hey, you know, I don't really like the way semblances work and I want to change that. And you say, well, I mean, you're the writer, so you can do whatever you want. Okay, so I make semblances completely dependent on your emotions or your mood or your body temperature. I can completely undo everything that's already been established because I'm the writer and I have the power to do that. Which is the same thing with characters. You see characters like Adam Taurus, or who's another character that got messed up? Mercury. You see Mercury or Emerald, or even Cinder to some extent. You see characters that are previously established, and then you can see how they change very quickly, and that's just because a writer decided this is the direction they wanted to go. Now, they weren't the person that came up with the idea for the character, so obviously they're going to have some differing opinions about how the character goes. It's kind of like how you can read a bunch of different fan fiction of the same character, and each time the character is going to seem just a little bit different, and that's because everybody brings their own kind of creative mumbo-jumbo to the character when they're writing it. And it just so happens that this is an extremely bad string of these characters, because it seems like bad written fan fiction. And the writers are really to blame for that, 112%. It could be Carrie, it could be Miles. If they're the ones approving it, they're just as much to blame, because this isn't true to the source material of what the characters are, or who they should be, or what they should become. There's no arc anymore. It's just like a standard hero's journey or something like that. I think that's what I said. A hero's journey where they have the bad villain and they're on the journey to beat the bad villain. And this is the most standard story arc that you could possibly have. It's always just the baseline in pretty much every movie, TV show. You have a bad villain and you have a hero, and the hero has to go to the bad villain, but there's going to be stuff along the way that stops them. That doesn't make for a great story. It's the basis for a story, but it feels like for RWBY, that's all that they have to this story. So to me, that's kind of a problem. I mean, that's not to say that all the characters in RWBY are bad. Some are actually written pretty good. I would like to say that maybe Cinder was a pretty good character. Now, even Neo seems like she's starting to be written bad, honestly. Jeez, good character. I used to like Crow a lot. Crow was one of my favorite characters. Oh my god. Okay, Tyrion. Tyrion's a pretty good written character. You know, he's a crazy, psychotic believer of Salem. I also believe that Hazel was written kind of good until they revealed his motivation for hating Ozpin, at which point he lost all credibility. But these characters, they are okay, they're good, you know. Talk was, in my opinion, one of the best written characters of Volume 6, just because of how simple her character was. It was straightforward, it made sense, she did this, clearly she's been through some shit, yada yada yada, doesn't matter. She does this, that's it. And that to me was like really cool, because that was one of the few parts where I thought the animation was on point, the fight was on point, the motivation was on point, everything about that sequence was amazing. And then in the following like 5 minutes they ruined it. But that being said, you know, it does mean that there is hope for RWBY. They have to stop forcing things in there, stop going off their agenda. I understand that most companies or people will obviously try and insert their beliefs into whatever context or material that they are creating. It's kind of what makes it special. But the initial thing of RWBY isn't this. There's none of this. It's not there. It's just friends in a world, and obviously the Faunus are the discriminated ones. They are the ones that are discriminated against, and we should be focusing on that, not lesbian couples. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. It's like, that should be something that just happens in the background, and it shouldn't be a focal point. It should just be like steadily growing their relationship, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. It just seems to be kind of heavy-handing it, like, there it is, which is kind of just depressing to me. Can it be saved? God, I feel like I've said that like 4 times now. Yes, it can, but it's not going to be easy. And I'm going to be sticking around to see where Volume 7 goes, because I'm kind of curious, you know, and I might even renew my first membership just to watch it. But as far as, you know, the writers and just like Rooster Teeth as a whole, the company is just rotten to the core. It's lost a lot of its core values. It doesn't really seem community oriented anymore. It just seems kind of like the only example I can give of that is I used to wake up every morning before I went to work, and I would just watch an Achievement Hunter video, and it would be like the funniest thing ever, and I loved it so much, and it was great. And now, I swear, I haven't watched one in like a year, maybe 2, and it's kind of depressing to me. I think right after Ray left was when I lost interest. But that just goes to show you that them as a company, they're doing something wrong. Maybe they're focusing too much on different projects. Maybe they're allowing too much creative direction. Maybe they're not sticking to source material very much. But as far, I mean, if you look at their roster, it's like a mismatched who's who of just people with questionable beliefs. And, you know, it doesn't really matter too much, because everybody's entitled to their own beliefs, and you can believe whatever you want, and everybody's happy about it. Just don't force it on me. And that's kind of what they do, is they force it on me, which is sad. So guys, if you watched through this lengthy dribble, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're the OG, I'm the OG. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want. You don't have to. I don't really care too much. But like I said, keep in mind, maybe my videos will be more like this, because they're significantly easier to do, and I know for a fact it won't crash my program. But the other thing might. So until I get, you know, enough money to do all that other stuff that I said I was going to do, this might be my go-to. There's a bright side to it, though. There you go. This is my boy. That's the sound you hear every time he comes around me. Speak! Alright guys, catch you later.